Entitled parent tried to force me to watch the kid. Forever! Now, understand that this is not an issue anymore, but I just wanted to share it. I don't know if this belongs in entitled or insane parents, but I'll move it if it's not the right place. It's a story that often comes up during evenings with old and new friends, as we all agree it's an incredible, odd story. Back in the late 2000s, I was hired by my aunt to take care of my cousin, since she was about a year or two old to help her, as she was then a single mother with a very career-driven mind. Her parents got divorced because the mother, quote, worked too much. Just so happened she liked her job and would even work at home. Her father was a layabout, barely could keep a job, even if he bothered finding one, but he was her high school sweetheart. So she didn't really care, because she did enjoy having him around in some kind of eye candy, at least at first, because 5 years of laying about did some cause and inflated every possible direction. They started to grow even further apart because my aunt would work and her husband would not do any work, including child rearing or cleaning, but thought my aunt would stop working that hard so he would just be a lazy person. Not really a good role model. When my aunt got divorced, she still had to work, but she had her baby to take care of. I was about 12-13 when I first got offered quite the generous pay. Double the minimum wage back then, so about $16 per hour, to help take care of my baby cousin while her mother worked in the other room. Plus, the promise that my college and university would be paid by my aunt. So, being the little opportunist I was, I thought, great. Now, I was too young to believe I would need to get this all in writing. So, I'm perfectly aware now that I should never trust anyone's word, because, well, we are related. I was arguably mature for my age, but most of my work was simply to change the baby and feed her from 4 until 10. Yay, 6 hours. So my aunt could work without being interrupted and take a nap so she could take care of the baby. I had my room set up at her place and often would simply spend my time studying or playing video games when my cousin was not calling for care. Keep in mind, this was no unusual event in my family. We're tightly knit. We learned soon after that the father had skipped town. To this day, he hasn't came back. Not even once. I was keeping in the dark for a year or two, but I was told later this. I was my cousin's dedicated babysitter or nanny most of her life. When I was done with high school, my aunt even offered me more money so I would take care of her longer. And when she started school, I helped her with her homework. Then things got a bit weird. The older she got, the less available my aunt became for her events. So I started filling in for her. Recitals? I went. Parent-teacher conferences? I went. I was about 20-something then, and I would pick her up at her playdates, no questions asked. But then my aunt went back against her word. I wanted to go to college, get my degree or something, and she said no, you have to be available for my cousin. I explained to her that I would still be able to help out after school, but I would be just a bit busier and my schedule might change. She completely blew up and tore me a new one. She screamed at me in ways I never expected her to, especially since we had such a good relationship for the last 7 years. She told me I was selfish, told me that my cousin relied on me and that I should be grateful for the opportunity of helping her raise her child. I tried to reason with her, but she got even angrier. And then she slapped me across the face and told me she would not pay 1 dime of my college university. That I would come take care of her child and that's it, because that's what family does. I pretended I agreed because I was simply terrified at her at this point, and I knew enough stories not to try to reason with her, and just left for the evening. Just imagine having those big, green eyes, bloodshot from rage, glaring down on you with the heaviest breathing that you could imagine. This is what I was opposed to. I went to my mother, then to my father, and told them the story. I was about 20 already, but never someone raised their hand to me, at least in my family. My father and mother have been divorced, but when they heard this story, and a united front that would only be accompanied by the Avengers theme song, they went to my aunt's house. According to my mom, my aunt thought that since I did not go to college right away, she believed that in some twisted perception of the world, I would take over as my cousin's parental figure and stick around to raise her kid with her. This was beyond the comprehension of me, my father, or my mother. She was told that she was not allowed to see me anymore, and that she should start considering childcare services from now on. Now, I love my cousin. I can definitely safely say that my affection from her is somewhat akin to one of a parental figure, as I saw her grow from a baby to the adorable child that she is today. But in absolutely no way was I ever picturing myself as being her father, or that I would have to care for her until she's old enough to move out. After that, my aunt had the gall to make a phone call and have me speak to my cousin. The latter, being about 7 years older then, was crying on the phone and asking me if it was true that I did not want to see her anymore, and that I hated her. I asked if her mom was around, and she said yes. I told her that she was my family and that no, I did not hate her. I told her I wanted to go to school like her so I could become smarter, and told her she can call her aunt, aka my mom, whenever she misses me, and I would make time to see her at my mother's place. This apparently comforted her and enraged her mother, because she picked up the phone and screamed at me some more, so I hung up. Today, my cousin's a bit older. We don't see each other as much since I moved out, but she still calls me every week or so. I don't speak to her mother anymore, but she apparently changed quite a lot after the events. She went to therapy after the events and actually ended up reducing her working hours to take care of her children. She's growing up healthy and loved. She sometimes calls me Dad, whenever I sound patronizing on the phone or in person. Even more after learning the whole story from me, my mother, and my father. And my aunt owned up to it. No matter the past, she is today one of the dearest people to my heart. And she's always welcome around me, my friends, or the ladies in my life, because she truly is a sweetheart. My aunt, however, never called me to apologize or make amends. She never made good on her word, so I never believed that she ever truly accepted the fact that I was not wrong. I do not attend events where I might run into her, and I spend Christmas with my friends instead of spending it with the family these days. Our family is not as tightly knit as it used to be, and if I ever agree to take care of a child, I will demand payment in advance. So I just want to say one thing. I feel sorry for this kid for having to deal with this entitled mother. Let's go ahead and read a comment. Parentification. And it's not even pushed onto a sibling, but a cousin, aka OP. That's crazy. Then she proceeded to burn all her bridges when she did not get her own way. Feel sorry for the kid having to deal with parents that suck. And then someone else replied to that commenter by saying, well, at least she did grow up just fine. For all her faults, my aunt apparently did not mistreat her or deflect her anger to her. Or, at least, I didn't notice anything, but thanks for your nice words, says OP. So guys, let me know in the comment down what you would do. If you were in the shoes of OP, I would love to hear your opinion on it. Our second story on the day. Drop everything and be my nanny for 1 year. Guys, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's jump right into story number 2. This is a story about my aunt and her entitled BS. She was always a bit eccentric, but she's completely lost her marbles when she had her first kid a few years ago. She had him pretty late at age 39, and her birth was pretty traumatic. I suspect she suffers from undiagnosed PPD, but I'm not any kind of professional, so I can't know for sure. A little family dynamic context. I have 2 older sisters, and our parents divorced about 16 years ago when I was 8. My sisters were 12 and 17. We don't have any contact with our father because he's not a very nice man. This aunt and his younger sister. My paternal grandma had always perpetuated this weird dynamic of golden child / scapegoat, and everyone on the side of the family just followed it, no questions asked. My older sister was the golden child and my middle sister was the scapegoat. I was mostly ignored, but that also brought in its own issues. They treated my middle sister terribly when she was a teenager, making up terrible things about her and how my mother was doing a bad job raising us. The things they said were pretty heinous, and I honestly don't want to repeat them. This made my sister call out this behavior, and she was ostracized for it for years. Then, my sister got married to a man who does pretty well for himself, and moved overseas. Suddenly, she was now the favorite grandchild. My aunt had her kid 3 years ago. She's full-on yummy mummy, wanted a natural birth, diffuses essential oils and the time, etc. She also had a very good career beforehand and was respected as an expert in her field. Anyways, my sister is living her life, building a career of her own in this country that's about 16 hours of flight away, living her best married life. My aunt called her one day when the kid was about 6 months old, and tried to give her to move back to our country to be a nanny for her for a year, so my aunt can go back to her career. She even offered to pay her. She harassed my sister for weeks until she started to ignore her messages and calls, and my aunt gave up later. Other requests my aunt had for my sister include buy her kid one of those toddler-sized battery-powered cars and bring it over to her on the plane. She did not offer to pay for that. And number 2, buy some purebred puppy and fly it out here. She won't be paying for that either. She even calls my sister at ungodly hours because she forgets the time zones are a thing, just to chat about nothing. I'm really glad that everyone ignores me and I'm currently getting the silent treatment for not calling often enough. Or whatever. But I really do feel for my sister. So I want to read a comment that has a similar situation to this story that was in the original thread. This was the dynamic in my family with my dad. My oldest half-brother was the scapegoat / black sheep. My second brother was the golden child and I was the forgotten one. My oldest brother actually wasn't the best person, but he did not deserve how he was treated by either of our parents. When he moved to take care of our mother, my dad basically disowned him and put the scapegoat mantle on me. My golden brother has no concept out of his siblings and have been treated, and the cognitive dissonance that happened when he did see me mistreated was astounding. It's a horrible way to treat one's children. I'm sorry this is your family dynamic with your father's side. It's so unfair. Guys, as always, share your opinions and similar stories in the comments section, and our final story of the day, it's an Am I the A-hole story, so let's get right to it. I'm a 34-year-old female, and I was with Liam, who's 35 male for over a decade. Had 2 children with him, and we broke up when I learned he was cheating on me with Ella, who's 30. Ella was pregnant when I learned about their affair, and the 2 of them were very smug about the fact that they're going to start a family, with my kids who were young enough at the time to potentially see Ella as a second mom in their lives. Ella was downright nasty, saying she could provide them so much better because her parents were wealthy, and she'd be number 1 mom in no time. We ended up getting shared custody of our children, and the schedule was week on, week off. X and I met at a neutral location per our custody order to reduce conflict and any problems with the exchange of our children. The judge also ruled that Ella could not be present for exchanges, given her alienating language towards me, and that was not totally hidden from mine and Liam's children. My ex and Ella got a big shock when our family did not support them, after the realization that she helped him cheat and has gotten pregnant with someone who had a family. So they did end up struggling. While I was doing better than ever after making a career shift, I'd wanted to do it for some time. They of course realized over time this was, I think, just after their daughter and around the time they got married. Then the name I heard from their daughter was suddenly changed to my name. And they started being super kiss butt with me and saying how my kids deserved one family unit and how their daughter was named after me, was my kid's little sister, how she needed someone to help support her and give her the life her siblings have. I told them they were batshit crazy and I was not their daughter's anything. They had 2 more girls since then, and apparently they're telling those girls that I'm their aunt and or their other mother, hence the older of the 3 being named after me. The oldest is always trying to seek me out. My ex brings her during exchanges of our kids, and she rushes out of the car with my children. They've told me how uncomfortable it makes them because they aren't allowed to correct it. I told my ex he needs to say something. I said the same thing to Ella, but they never did. A few days ago, their oldest sought me out again and asked if she could stay when my kids stay with me, and how she's so glad I'm her aunt and her other mother. I told her straight up, I wasn't. I said so kindly, but I was also firm that I was not her aunt and her mom in any way. She got upset and ran back to her parents, then I got dumped on by Ella for breaking her daughter's little achy-breaky heart. She said they only tried to be nice and make the best of the family situation for the kids, and that I'm an a-hole. I do feel kinda bad because the girl was devastated. At the same time, I don't have any interest in being part of those girls' lives in any kind of way, except for when I see them or my kids. Am I the a-hole, guys? Let me know in the comment section. Well, it seems to me like Ella is the huge problem here, and she's the villain of the story. I want to go ahead and read this comment that I found. It says, I don't really think you're the a-hole. It's not really a-hole comparable, as OP is just kindly telling the truth. The truth now after Ella's been making stuff up. Ella's the a-hole to her own girls, just to try to weasel some money out of OP. Never mind all the stuff before. And then the second comment replying to that said, I feel really bad for the kids. They're stuck in this demented situation. How awful it is to be lied to by your own parents, as a way of manipulating others. What do you guys think of that? Drop it down in the comment section. That's all the stories I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new, click that subscribe button and smash the like button. And Mr. Reddito will catch you tomorrow.